All right, let's go ahead and get started with our lesson today. 1.3 distance formula. So this is all about distance. Our I can statement for today is I can find the distance between 2 points. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first slide here, you're going to want to write this down. We're going to use this a lot today. The distance formula. Okay, so we have a square root that goes over everything that we're going to write inside of it. So make sure when you write this square root sign, it's going pretty far over to the right. Our formula, x2 minus x1 squared. Notice the parentheses. Make sure these are in here. So x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And I'm sure you guys don't exactly know what these x2, x1, y2, y1 mean, so we will talk about that on the next slide. So if you need to, go ahead and pause it and write down this formula. All right, our first example here. It says find the distance between 1, 2, and -5, 3 using Desmos to help. So I'm not going to use Desmos in this lesson. You guys can absolutely use this at home. You're able to use this in the classroom as well. This is going to make this a lot easier for you guys, so I would advise you to use that if you have the chance. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to first write down our formula. All right, so we have square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right. Now, again, this x2, this x1, y2, y1, let's go ahead and name those. So what I'm going to do with those is I'm just going to look at these points, and I'm going to name these points x1, y1, x2, and y2. Okay. It doesn't necessarily matter which one of these goes first. I like to just go ahead and call the first one x1, y1. Okay. And you can always remember it's always going to be x1, y1, x2, y2 because every point that we are given is of the form xy. So all we're doing here is we're saying, hey, this is the first x, this is the first y, which means this right here will be the second x and the second y. So what x2 and y2. Okay. Let's go ahead and try to put these in the formula. So I'm going to go ahead and actually give these some colors for us just to make it easier for us to see exactly where everything's coming from. So x1 will be red, y1 will be green, x2 will be blue, and y2 here will be black. Okay, so those are going to be our numbers here. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with our big square root. That's what we're going to have to start all these problems with. And I'm going to go ahead and draw our parentheses with our squared because I know that we will be using that for sure no matter what. Okay, so there's our square root. Now let's go ahead and start filling in some numbers. So x2 we said was blue, so I'm going to be using our blue here. This is going to be -5. All right, -5 minus x1. So x1 we said was red, so we're going to write our minus sign here, and our x1 was 1. So -5 minus 1 squared plus our y2 minus y1. So our y2 we had in black, we said was 3. So we say our y2 here is 3, and our y1 we said was green. So minus our y1, which was 2. Okay, so we have -5 minus 1 squared plus 3 minus 2 squared. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of this problem in black since we have all of our numbers in here now. So all we want to do is we want to go -5 minus 1. -5 minus 1. That's going to give us a -6. So this would be -6 squared. Over here, 3 minus 2 squared. Well, 3 minus 2 is just 1. So this is going to be 1 squared. Okay. If you guys want to, you can put this right here in Desmos. As long as you know how to set these up and you know how to type them into Desmos, this should give you the right answer. Okay. This should just go ahead and give you the right answer. So, if you don't know how to do that, ask me while you're in class. I can show you how to do that in class. Like I said, I'm not going to put the tutorial in this video, but if you need to know how to use Desmos, you guys have questions, send me an email. Okay. Now, over here, we're just going to do this problem out by hand. This is -6 squared plus 1 squared. Now, something that we got caught up on a lot last year, and something that's super important, is whenever we square a number, we will not get a negative. So anything squared numbers will be positive, no matter what, okay? If you have negative infinity squared, okay, that's going to give you a positive. It does not matter how big the negative number is. So for example, our -6 here, I know that this will come out to be positive, okay? So if you want to put that in your calculator, this -6 squared, the way that you need to put that in your calculator is parenthesis, -6, end parenthesis, square, okay? This is the only way that you can put this in the calculator and get the right answer. If you forget these parentheses, it's going to tell you that your answer is negative, and we should know that that's not the case here because of what we have written down. Squared numbers will always, always, always be positive, okay? So -6 squared gives us 36, and that is a positive 36, plus 1. 1 squared would be 1. So we are going to get square root of 37. Square root of 37. Okay, so this square root of 37 here, you can either leave this as your answer, that would work, or if you wanted to give me what this was equivalent to, so if you wanted to actually take the square root of 37, I'd also take that answer as well. And this gives us about 6.08, so I'm just going to go ahead and round this up to the nearest tenth. And I'm going to say that this is either equal to the square root of 37 or this is equal to 6.1. Whichever one you guys prefer, I would take both of these on a test. Okay, so square root of 37, or if you wanted to make that equivalent to a certain number, you go ahead and square root it. That would give us 6.1. Okay. All right, next slide. Find the distance between C, -4, -6, and D, 5, -1. Okay, so let's make sure we're paying attention. There are some negatives in here, and I want to show you guys what we do with those negatives and how we deal with them. So again, I'm going to write down our formula, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And I'm going to go ahead and number these again with some colors. So -4 here, x1 in red, -6 here, y1 in green. Okay, so the first two numbers are x1, y1. The second two numbers I'm going to name x2 and y2. So x2 is in blue, y2 will be in black. Okay, so again, square root. We know that we're going to have x2 minus x1 squared. So I'm going to go ahead and draw our parentheses with our squared for both of these. No matter what this is, I know this is going to be the form that we use. So let's go ahead and use our x2, which is blue. So we're going to use our x2 here, which we said was 5. So we are going to say 5. Now we know that 5 is going to be minus something, right? We're going to do x2 minus x1. So we're going to do 5 minus our x1, which is in red. So we're going to do 5 minus a -4. Now I hope you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute. When we subtract a negative, what are we really doing? Okay, and hopefully you answered that question with adding. Anytime we're subtracting a negative, we are really just adding. So every time that we have minus a negative, I am okay with you guys just changing that to a plus sign. So here, instead of having 5 minus a -4, we are going to write 5 plus 4. Okay, 5 plus 4. Now, let's go ahead and do our y2. Our y2 we had in black, and we said it was -1. Y2 minus y1. So minus sign. Y1 we said was in green, so y1 is -6. -6. So again, subtracting a negative. Anytime we're subtracting a negative, it's the same thing as adding. So I'm going to change this to a plus sign. we are going to be left with 5 plus 4 squared plus -1 plus 6 squared. And all of that is square rooted. Okay? Let's go ahead and try to finish it up now. Again, like I said, if you guys wanted to put this in Desmos, this should give you the correct answer as long as you have this done correctly. Some errors that I see on Desmos is people forgetting to make sure their square root covers their entire problem. Make sure that it does. Okay, so if you're getting an error, that might be why. If you can't figure it out, send me an email. And we're going to go ahead and just add these numbers now. So we got 5 plus 4 squared. That gives us a 9 squared plus a -1 plus 6. So -1 plus 6 is going to give us a positive 5 squared. So we have 9 squared plus 5 squared. And of course, that is all square rooted as well. So now all we need to do is just keep simplifying as much as we can. So here we're going to have to do our exponents. So 9 squared gives us an 81. And 5 squared gives us a 25. Okay, so far we have the square root of 81 plus 25. Okay, so let's go ahead and do 81 plus 25. If we add those two together, 81 plus 25, that's going to be 106. Okay, so 106. I know off the top of my head that 106 is not going to be a perfect number, a perfect square. So you could go ahead and box this answer if you wanted to. I would take this, or I would take whatever it's equivalent to. So you could go ahead and do the square root of 106, and that would give you 10.29. So again, I'm just going to round to the nearest tenth, and I would say here that it's equal to 10.3. Okay. So either one of these would be correct, either the square root of 106 or 10.3. I would take either one of those. Okay. All right. So example number 3 here, I encourage you guys to pause this and do this one on your own, see if you can get it right. So go ahead and pause this now. All right, let's go ahead and solve this now for the distance. So if we wanted to solve this for distance, we could say the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And again, what we have to do first, we have to label our points. So this is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. Okay, I'm going to do all of this in black. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with our square root here. And I know this is going to be something squared plus something squared. So I'm just getting it set up for us. Now, x2 minus x1. x2 minus x1. So x2 we said was 8. x1 is a -5. -5. So minus a negative, that gives us a positive. 8 plus 5 squared. Now, y2 minus y1. So we're going to take -4 minus 6. -4 minus 6. Okay, so this is how we're going to set this up. Again, put this in Desmos. As long as it is in there correctly, you should get the right answer. The biggest part of this is just setting up these problems. Okay, so 8 plus 5, that gives us 13. So 13 squared plus -4 minus 6. Well, -4 minus 6 is -10 squared. So 13 squared plus a -10 squared. And I will tell you guys right now, we have a negative something squared. What is this going to be? Is this going to be negative or is this going to be positive? Hopefully you sat at home and you said this is going to be positive. All right. Everything that we do, anything we square will be positive. So 13 squared here, that gives us 169. And -10 squared gives us positive 100. Okay, positive 100. So our answer here could either be this, the square root of these two numbers added together, which would be 269. And again, the only reason that I know that we can use this and not the final number is because I know that this is not going to be a perfect number. So if we took the square root of 100, obviously the square root of 100 would just be 10. So I wouldn't want you to tell me that the distance was the square root of 100, I would want you to tell me this. I would just want you to tell me it is 10. But because that this is going to be some decimal, that's the only reason we're able to do this. So most of the time, you guys probably won't know that we can do this until you go ahead and find that decimal number. So here, the square root of 269 would give us 16.4. So our final answer here would be 16.4, or you could say the square root of 269. Okay? All right, next one. Distance between J, 4,3, and K, negative 3,7. So again, the first thing I'm doing on every one of these problems is writing down the formula to make sure that I can put these in the right place. So we got x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1. Both of those are squared. And again, first thing to do, now that we've got the formula down, is label our points. So this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. Okay. Again, encourage you to pause it, try to see if you can get this one right on your own, and then come back and see the final answer here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So x2 minus x1, we've got negative 3 minus our x1, which is 4. So negative 3 minus 4 squared. Now y2 minus y1. y2 is negative 7. y1 is 3. So negative 7 minus 3 squared. So again, the square root of negative 3 minus 4 squared plus negative 7 minus 3 squared. Let's go ahead, finish this up. Negative 3 minus 4 will give us a negative 7. So negative 7 squared. And negative 7 minus 3 is going to give us a negative 10 squared. Okay? So that is what we get based off of that previous line. Now that we have negative 7 squared plus negative 10 squared, I want you guys to ask yourself again. We are squaring negative numbers. Will these numbers be positive or will these numbers be negative? And hopefully you told yourself we're squaring them, which means they will have to be positive no matter what. Okay, so negative 7 squared gives us 49. Negative 10 squared gives us 100. We are going to have here the square root of 100 plus 49, which is 149. And again, I know off the top of my head that this is not going to come out perfectly, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. So the square root of 149 is equal to 12.2. 12.2. So we could say 12.2 is our answer. We could also say that the square root of 149 is our answer. Okay. So I hope this helps. We will revisit this on a later date this week. We're going to do some practice with this in midpoint. So any questions, send me an email. If not, great work.